Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Surprisingly well.
Why is that? Why surprisingly well?
Well, today I'm officially the last
9.5. I know.
No. What surprisingly well is in celebration, it just worked out purely by stupid accident of being 59 and a half. Earth, Wind, and Fire is coming to our area. And I just had they're playing on a pretty well-known outdoor venue, which my wife and I've never gone because it's fucking Florida.
Man.
We never gone in the summer, and then during the winter, I'm always busy because of the fucking NBA.
Right.
So they're playing with a band that I grew up loving called Chicago.
Yeah, of course.
Famous band.
Of course.
You know, easy music, whatever. But I listened to all those things when I was in high school and middle school. And Earth, Wind, and Fire was like one of my top bands when I was in college. And we're supposed to have like a little dry air, like for a couple of days.
You're going.
So I'm like, fuck it. I went and bought tickets, and we're going tomorrow night. It's only a 45-minute drive.
Very nice.
I've never seen Earth, Wind, and Fire in concert.
That'll be a fun time.
I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm not very excited. She'll really love it. I'm glad that I can give her the opportunity. I'm gonna enjoy today, but I do like that music very much. We listen to a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire in this house.
You're going to enjoy it very much and have a great
time. I don't know, Jarod. I just watched it on YouTube, just like them singing.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not the young men that I listened to when I was young.
Listen.
Look, I'm inspired. But Philip Bailey, he's not lifting his knees real high when he's dancing anymore.
Wait, what is he now? 80s, 70s, something? 80s?
No, I was afraid to look it up. But I figured at least 70s.
Yeah,
he was a young man when I was in college. So,
right.
If he was 28 then, whatever, he's, he's a decade older than me. So he's high 60s. Yeah. I'm excited. It'll be good. It'll be fun.
It will definitely be fun. And one of the great things about music is the instant you hear the sound, it will transport you back to those times when you were young, and you will reminisce. And it's going to fill you with all the warm feels, and you'll just have a good time. That's
right. Yeah.
It's going to be so great.
Yeah, it'll be good. Anyway, so all good.
We had we talked about Team USA winning the gold, of course, and their fifth consecutive. And you detailed a great piece about a lesson Team USA taught the world about humility. And really, it's three protagonists, and as we've said numerous times, the three NBA players who have been the best of the last 2 decades that have defined NBA basketball over the last 20 years. Of course, talking about LeBron, KD, and Steph. And in that moment, how it wasn't about me, it was about we. And no matter who it was, we both believed that whoever was the dude, the two of them would have been like, yep, let's give it to them, because I don't care who's winning, right? It's not about me being the main guy and being the Oscar winner. It's about us winning the gold medal. It's a great lesson to learn that I think teams can take. And I want to start here, David, with sort of thinking about it from this perspective. To make the NBA, you have to have, of course, talent, what goes without saying. In order to be good in the NBA, your work ethic has to be great. But David, you also have to have a level of self-confidence that is extremely high, or else you're not going to make it. So how do you balance the self-confidence with humility without it bordering on arrogance?
Yeah, that's a hard question. It's a daily struggle. Not for me. I have nothing really to be arrogant about. No one have I never, other than when I first started dating the girl I married, I feel pretty good about that. It's really a challenge every day because it's like trying to hold on to liquid Jello. It just slips through. Sometimes you feel like you got it a little bit, as opposed to pure liquid. Mm-hmm. The more the Jello that's kind of getting more fluid as it warms up. It's such a hard thing. The thing I think about, it's funny, we're laughing about Earth, Wind, and Fire. You understand where I'm going here, Jarod. Whenever they can't reach a note that they used to once reach so easily, they just hear the crowd sing. Mm-hmm. And we're all singing, right? I've been at concerts with older guys before, and women, and it's still as amazing as ever was because we're part of it. Well, the players can't do that.
Right.
They have got to perform. And then the other problem is age is working against you. the season is working against you oftentimes because of your body, and you have 5 bad dudes on the other team trying to beat you. And so to have this supreme confidence of being able to pull things off, and I'm not kidding when I tell you, just the simple inside out through your legs move you might make to get open late in a gym, you're going to turn that over 1,000 times in your life. Oh, maybe not 1,000, maybe 300 times in your life if you're a really good player when you've been working on it. There's no guarantee these dribble moves work. In the gold medal game, I think Holiday and LeBron ran a little ball screen action. LeBron caught the ball in a short roll early, so around the top of the key, dribbled his left hand right out of bounds. Right out of bounds. LeBron threw a pass to Durant out of bounds. Like all these things that they do, it could be a car wreck, every single one of them. And so you have to have some moxie to be able to pull it off. And then also be able to deal with the failure to do so. And everything else in between, right? Doing it, not doing it. I do think in our game, I guess the best way to put it would be the reliance on self needs to be mixed into the reliance on others. That includes your coach, certainly your trainer, the guy or girl who's stretching you and preparing you for battle, your nutritionist, but your team for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think it's why also we have lots to get to today, and I don't want to go too on a tangent, but I don't know who the guy's name is. Some dude on ESPN's yelling and screaming at Stephen A. Smith, who also yells and screams about how this wasn't such a great win, right? Because Team France was led by Evan Fournier, although he wasn't. Right. They weren't. It was Wemby that really, who's going to be the best one in the world one day. We think anyway. Not guaranteed. He's got work to do, but of course he's trending in the right direction. And he's got the upside for it. So, as a golf aficionado used to be, I read a great book called A Good Walk Spoiled by John Feinstein. An incredible read on the U.S. Ryder Cup. On the Ryder Cup. Mm-hmm. Mostly focused, I think, on the American team. I read it a long time ago. And you had the world's best players for America, guys who had won major championships and everything else. The term they use is just throwing up all over themselves. That's their term, on a 4-foot putt. Because when they're putting for themselves, it's just not as stressful as when you're putting in your sense for a nation. But that's what the Olympics are. And so I think we should respect that weight where I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for we. I think that was the case in Team USA. Mm-hmm. But I also think we see at least a semblance of that with their teams when it matters most. At some point, you click away from the value you're building, Jarod, to make the contract you want to get currently or in the future. And really then at some point, it's just about the winning, where I'm trying to win it for us, not just for me. And there's pressure to that. That's why these games can be so dramatic, not just in the NBA, but certainly in the Olympics as well. You're playing for so much more than yourself. And so that vulnerability, I think, in the human condition, pushes you towards humility. I don't have to do this by myself. I have others doing it. I am in awe of players still call me coach, and still, not always, they call me David. The adults especially do. I'm fine with that. They want help. And that same person who wants to be coached, wants to be pushed, wants to be challenged, wants to be taught. I sent you a picture on Instagram. I'm going to look at it right now again. Where it might have been LeBron's tweet. Yeah, Avengers Assemble, mission complete. Mm-hmm. And it's LeBron and Steph doing the nighty-night. Mm-hmm. Or how do you say in French, Jarod?
Nui nui.
Yeah, I don't speak French. Yeah, that was beautiful. So they're doing it face to face. There's Halliburton doing it with this, like he's like in a dream on the bench. I'm looking at the picture as we speak. Drew Holiday's got this gorgeous smile doing it. Tatum is looking up. I don't know what he's looking at up in the what do they call it? The scoreboard above the court. Yep. The Jumbotron, whatever. Yep. He's clapping. Embiid got this great smile looking at something. And let's face it, of the 6 guys in the camera that we're looking at, what I'm looking at right now, 2.5 per very pivotal. Curry, yes. LeBron, yes. Holiday, somewhat. Embiid for a game. He was very good against Serbia. Very important. Halliburton, not at all. Tatum, not at all. And yet, joy, pure joy. And I happen to think that in overwhelming majority, the players that have dominated the sport that you and I love most have a sense of purpose for the we and not just the me. They get it. It's the nature. It's in the DNA of our sport. It's not one-on-one tennis or pickleball or even swimming, which can do some team stuff, obviously, but it's not the same. There's not a direct connection. Our sport necessarily demands a caring about what I'm doing to the benefit of someone else or for other people on the court, not to mention what's happening in the locker room and all that with everyone else. I can't play pick and roll defense. I can't run an offense without being mindful of that. So I think it's built in. And the players that fight it, I'll give you an example of Jalen Green started coming around late this year. I have not studied him. I don't have a reason to. Maybe I will this year.
Right.
Because they look like they might be pretty damn good this year, right? And he might be a big part of it. I just don't think he understood and in his bones the value of that. But that's and it's hard to learn. The understanding how to play, that's part and parcel of that concept, is how do I connect with everybody else? And there's way beyond what I could describe in an hour-long show. There's connection. There's connections firing, synapses firing, conjoining us as players and as coaches even. And so if you don't honor that, well, then you just are going to struggle to have good metrics unless you look like Jokic or Embiid. Not that they don't get it, they do. Right. But they probably don't need it and still could be okay, but they won't be the best they can be. This is our game of one game of 5-on-5.
Yep.
And so you're dead on. The article really is a love letter to the respect that you and I talked about it from day one in the Olympics, not in the exhibition. They just seem to play with joy with each other. It's game one, play the right way. They killed Serbia, assisting everywhere. Ball was not sticky almost ever. Everyone played a role, no drama at all. The media try to drum drama up, which is what people do sometimes. Tatum didn't take the bait. I didn't think at all. Not at all, right? And they end up giving us this beautiful gift that if I was a young man as a coach, boy, I'd be talking about this. I am talking about it now a good amount, but I'm talking to mostly pros. I do have another business where I work with young people now, and we're just marketing that, which is great. I had a couple calls this week with high school age players. Hey, I talked to 2 teenagers this week. Did you watch Team USA? Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, yes, they did. All the games they could. And at night, if they couldn't watch it during the day because they're balling during the day. There's a lesson there. Caring about all the little things matter. Caring about your teammate matters. And just you and I, the Spurs and the Heat and the Warriors, like there was a connection. Those teams played the right way and won championships. The Boston Celtics this year, when basketball. When Derek White and Drew Holiday are getting so much love, there's a reason for that. And so I adore the Team USA model that we've adopted. And quite frankly, the 92 team, Jordan was our best player, but he revered Bird and Jordan. Bird and Magic, because they were winners. If you studied it like I did, I was literally starting to coach, in the late 80s, so 92 wasn't far off. He revered. I always used to say, Jarod, long before I knew you, he's going to get 6 rings. I had no idea he'd retire and the gambling or whatever. I didn't know any of that. I just thought he would get 6 titles. I thought he could.
More than Magic.
Right. But because that's Jordan's personality. But I also know the respect he had for both those guys.
For sure.
Because they played the right way. They changed the league.
They did.
Right when he was going to North Carolina, who absolutely played the right way. Dean Smith is famous for not just playing to one player's strengths. There used to be you may know this, the only guy to keep Jordan scoring down was Dean Smith.
Yep.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy wore North Carolina pants his entire career.
Under his
Don't tell me that wasn't impactful.
No doubt.
Right? And not just because he played in high school there, but because of what that meant, that experience meant. And all of those players, you may know this, North Carolina is famous for their NBA players come back to play pickup. And that's becoming more commonplace everywhere now, everywhere. All of this connects us. a certain way. And so when you don't play the right way, you stand out in the worst way possible. And so race to learn how to play the right way, to make my teammates better and to let them make me better. And you have a much better chance of winning more possessions when you do that.
And I think, and obviously this is so much at the core of what you do with your players in terms of player development, right? And it's such an odd thing because for a lot of these kids, I imagine when they're young, and because basketball is such a sport because of the way it's designed, that if one person is really much better than everybody else, they can have a demonstrable impact on the outcome of a game just because of the nature of how the game is played. And so it's this weird thing they have to fight against, right? This individuality is how I get recognized, and then how I get ranked number one, and how I go wherever I want to go. But ultimately, if I really want to do this the right way, it can't be just about me because I'll never win, right? It's got to be about this collective. And I think it's such an interesting sort of journey a player goes through.
Yeah, and talk about humility too. So yesterday, I don't know if I did this on the WhatsApp thread that you're on. I don't remember what I did for my training center yesterday, but I definitely sent to all my young guys that are playing pickup now. I sent them a video clip of Derek White.
Yes, you
really. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got it. Mm-hmm. So it's not of Luka making some kind of incredible move and Jason Tatum or all the amazing players. It was Derek White getting a back steal, but because he raced back on defense and got a back tip in the I think it was the finals.
Yep.
And my message to them was, in your pickup games, don't forget to try to be a defensive playmaker. And right away, my two guys that are playing in LA right now, because they're already starting, they both responded. One with a phone call, one with a text. Like, they get it. Like, it's not just about how many times you dribble the ball and pass and shoot and score and all that. We're trying to win games here. And so one way you can do it is to try to make plays on defense too. Mm-hmm. And that takes effort and mindfulness, right? Paying attention to detail. So that's our game. That's our game. Our Team USA just exhibited that so beautifully, I thought.
Without question. We sung Devin Booker's praises, like all the guys who, again, were alphas on their team who were just like, no, I'm going to do the role that is required of me here for us to be successful. And I mean, that's ultimately what you want, right? You want to win at the end of the night.
I may have said this to you once before. I remember a long time ago, I used to do some training with my NBA guys, like about 45 minutes from here, actually right by where I'm going for that concert, in East Tampa. And it's not a great area, that part. So there's not a lot of fancy hotels. And Corey Brewer was in town, and he surprised me, which a lot of those old guys love to surprise. He just showed up one morning. He must have called my assistant Ryan and found out what time we were going. And I'm like, did you drive in from Gainesville or something? Because sometimes we do camps in Gainesville where he went to school. He's like, no, I drove in last night. I'm like, where'd you stay? He had told me he had gotten there at a very short drive. I said, where'd you stay? Because I was thinking there's no nice places around here.
Right.
He's like, I stayed at Radisson, it's like 5 minutes away. And I, for one moment, thought, Radisson. And he looked at me and read my mind. He had been with me a long time that morning. He said, Coach, like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't staying at Ritz-Carlton's growing up.
Correct.
Right? The Radisson, it was as nice as you could possibly stay at. When we go to any of the tournaments, on occasion you get a Radisson. It was, and they're fine hotels. They're just fine. And so I like to think about that because I like getting my NBA guys in a gym with high school guys sometimes. I'm not afraid of that because they remember what it was like. And so I think if you're Devin Booker, I promise you, Devin Booker hasn't always been the man. Neither has Bam Adebayo and anybody else. That doesn't mean they weren't the best player on their team. In many cases, they were. But they haven't always been the top scorer. At some point, they're playing up when you're in 9th grade, 10th grade, and you have to play a role. And I actually think they relish it. Because the stress of always having to be the guy is so great that isn't it nice to just, can I just play basketball?
Yep.
Because it's harder to do what I have to do for the Suns all year, What a joy to play with Steph and LeBron and those guys. And you get your moments, Devin.
Right.
But yeah, you got to just play. I mean, you see the way he played defense.
Yep.
You saw the way he played defense. He can't do that for Phoenix. He just carried too much of a load on offense.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
it's winning games.
It was wonderful. Corey Brewer, of course, everyone knows, starred for the Gators, lengthy NBA career, one of David's guys. And, he's one of the ones, whenever I talk about players and now coaches who, whenever I go see them and say, oh, hey, I'm Jarod Hector, I work with Coach David Thorpe. Like, Corey's one of the guys who, like, Thorpe, that's my guy. Like, just gets so
Yeah.
excited. Like, that's his man. And so much about this is about relationships, right? And
Right.
that's the thing. It's the relationships.
Yeah, I've told the story before. When Corey had a very famous father who pretty much went blind with diabetes, was a migrant worker, a farm worker in a sense, in Portland, Tennessee, and not a migrant worker, a farm. They lived on a small farm, and he worked, and they had nothing growing up except for a lot of love in their family. I know his brother Jason very well. I obviously met his mom, and Corey. He was so close to his dad. And when his dad first went into a coma, Corey called me bawling his eyes out. Because the NBA it's not built to go to your coaches there, unfortunately. And we're going to get to that a little bit later. And so I'm the one I say, Masai was the GM of the team, was the Nuggets. Call Masai, the secretary will take care of it, blah, blah, blah. And then when he did pass away a few weeks later, you connect with players sometimes just because of those kind of things. But by the way, Corey Brewer, who's maybe 38, 39, 40, I don't remember. I could easily look it up. He's playing Sunday for the Big Three championship.
Yeah, that's right.
And has a chance, I think he's going to be the MVP of the league.
Yeah.
I heard Ice Cube saying the other day that, we're the best 3-on-3 players in the world. We smoke anybody.
Yeah.
And I happen to think he's right because Team USA, I'm friendly with James Frischilla, one of the two coaches of the team. In fact, James is overseas right now working with one of my pro guys. America was number one in the world in 3-on-3 and just had a terrible tournament.
Yeah, they were not
and Chuma got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's any way they could beat these. I've watched these former NBA guys for the Big Three. Maybe they could. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to watch it Sunday at 3:00.
No, the Big Three's fun. I definitely had a chance to do a lot of that coverage early their inaugural season. Shout out to Ice Cube, Amy Trask, who's part of that organization. Just that group, just a real fun time for basketball lovers. David, on the Olympics, one of the moments we loved was the end of the gold medal game when the players, Team France, Team USA, are all shaking hands, high fiving, etc. We talked about Victor Wembanyama bawling his eyes out because he wanted to win that game so bad. And then he had this long exchange with Kevin Durant. And you said, I suspect he's asking Kevin and maybe Kevin, LeBron, and Steph, like, I want to be like you guys. I'd like some help. Well, you found a clip of Victor in France talking to one of the major French broadcast channels. And they asked him, you were talking to KD for a long time after the game. What were you talking about? And he kind of laughed. He said, well, I was asking him if I can steal one or two of his secrets, techniques. And, obviously secret techniques is, if you know about French English translation, we don't say secret techniques in basketball. We know what he means, right? He basically wants to spend a little time with Kevin Durant and see if he can borrow some things. So I thought, this is right up David's alley. So I said, David, imagine you get a call from Wemby's people. They say, Coach Thorpe, Wemby and KD are coming to your gym in Clearwater. Doesn't matter for how long. They want to work with you. And now that's exciting. And so if you're talking to Wemby and you've seen both their tapes, Wemby and KD's game, Wemby wants to steal one or two things from KD. What would you advise Wemby to work on? And what would be the plan you would have for him to borrow from Kevin Durant?
Yeah, it is a few things I would say. Regarding the KD thing, he's a long way from being KD.
No doubt.
And I think it's a mistake I would tell him, we got to crawl first. And KD, probably the best 7-foot ball handler ever. And so let's focus on that. Let's just be I think he probably is doing this anyway, but let's just get to be so much better with the ball. But what I would want Wemby to focus on, besides the obvious stuff, gaining strength and all that, and agility, would be understanding how to get more touches in important parts on the court before you dribble the ball. Mm-hmm. So he's gotten better at that. In some games, he did against Team USA. Your 7'4" is a beastly advantage. Mm-hmm. So keep running to the rim, keep sealing guys at the rim, keep cutting to the rim, pick and roll, not just pick and pop, race in transition, beat guys to the rim early and seal them and ask for the ball. because there's a good 10 to 15 points a game you can get just from buckets in the first box and fouls when you're in the first box, and you never dribble the ball one time. And they can't really scout that great because they can't load up to you. You're not there yet. So they're guarding their guy. All of a sudden you get in there. They may react early. Now guys are really wide open. And the rotations won't be as smooth as if everyone sees you with the ball. We all know what's going on. And even if we blitz you, we're going to know where to go. If all of a sudden, oh my God, Victor's at the rim, and now we're scrambling. That's good for the offense to try to force the defense to do. So, yeah, that's a big thing I would really push. KD, I think, has taken, by percentage, less bad shots than anyone I've ever seen play basketball and score like him. He just isn't in a rush to take a bad shot. And there's not many, now to be fair, there's not many shots that are bad for him.
Correct.
But there are some. He's taken some. But he's just really selective, really smart. That's why he's so efficient. One reason why, because he makes shots too. That helps. Wemby, he takes a lot of bad shots. He's just young. And so I bet he can learn from that from KD as well. And I would do the same thing with KD. I would have KD double down on trying to get more points in the paint off the catch and not just rely on your back end dribbles. And he can always do the threes and transition and all of that. But make them deal with you inside and then turn and score, which he's so gifted at without having to dribble. I think I think he does it pretty well, but he could probably be a little better at it.
Well, that's the thing you talk about, right? Is that if a player like KD comes to you, it's not about teaching him a new skill, right? It's about how do I make you more mindful of something that you know, but just again do this. And to your point, it's if he catches the ball in that 10 to 18 foot range, no need for you to dribble, right? You just catch that sucker, rise up and shoot, right? Do more of that.
I mean, it's to be efficient and to be productive. So the efficient part comes from where you're getting your shots. The productive is how often are you doing it. And so we want to constantly hunt those shots. That's a very common mantra for us is the relentless pursuit of those kinds of shots. And then we'll pivot based on what they do defensively. Or sometimes personnel on our court matters. If you have shooters, you can do one thing. If you don't, there's another thing. If no one can throw you the ball inside, we got to pivot some things. But yeah, that's the small parts, the details of the game that just takes some time. Some guys have a really good feel for just scoring, and that means I don't mean just after they get the ball, but before they get the ball, how to get the ball, where they get the ball. Some guys do not. They struggle with when to post, when to cut. They just don't have a natural feel for it. You got to teach them that.
Yeah. I love one of my favorite stories, which we've told a million times, is when a player asked you, how long before I get better at ball handling? And you told him 4 years. So if Victor was working on his ball handling, if you were to guess, I know it's hard to do, how long would you say it would take for him to improve dramatically in his
6 years.
Okay.
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. He's so tall.
But
when improve dramatically, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong answer. To improve dramatically, 4 years. To be really impactful, 6 years or never.
Okay.
Like I don't know at 7'4" if he's ever, right. It doesn't mean he won't be able to get step backs. Like the internet was going crazy. Not the internet. Some people on the internet were writing, that he juked AD. Well, no, he didn't. AD was making sure he didn't get the easy shot and trying to take this tough step back three, of which he only made one of those. He missed the others. AD did the right thing. He could always get that, but to be able to shake and bake like KD could do early in his career, I don't think it's a guaranteed thing that he can do it. He can do some things and counter well, but it won't be the kind of handle that we've seen LeBron and KD. But that's all right. He's got plenty of other ways to beat you up.
It's just too far for the ball has to go from his palm of his hands to the floor, right? And even if he crouches, because he's 7'4",
his center of gravity is just so tall.
Yeah. But to your point, 7'4" is a tremendous advantage, right? You can catch the ball and hold it where if someone tries to get it, they're going to foul you. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I haven't studied him that closely, but my general memory of watching him shoot threes and jumpers is he's fading away more than he needs to fade away. I do think it's a lazy habit players get into, and they're really good at it. It's just that I used to shoot fadeaways myself. It's a fun thing to do. But you're almost always going to be better not fading away, just sticking your landing landing with balance. And so he doesn't need to fade away as much because he's 7'4".
That's the thing. He doesn't have to worry about getting it over a block. No one's getting up there. So if he's more metronome, right, and piston, up, down, I think that'll improve his shot for sure.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. Okay, David. You had an NBA coach asked you this morning. We talked about this on Monday's show.
Yeah.
Has Europe caught up to America as it relates to, according to the NBA, as it relates to basketball?
Yeah, he just out of the blue texted me that question, and you and I talked about this. I think from the standpoint of the elite, it's hard to argue the world doesn't have its share, which makes sense. America doesn't dominate the world in population.
Correct.
There's billions of people out there. There's just the odds are you're probably going to get the world's best player from another country, because the field has flattened or leveled out a lot. But in terms of the depth of it, we still have a huge advantage, in my opinion. And I think part of the reason why I was texting with the coach this morning about it is soccer is just stealing a lot of really talented guards that overseas we'll never know. They're playing soccer at an early age. And if that wasn't the case, you might see even more European guards than we do now. They're not playing soccer. In fact, the development of playing soccer when they're young and they're tall is probably good for basketball because they're just moving more. The game's all about movement now anyway. So that's a good thing. You get comfortable moving in space. But the guards, I'm sure we're losing. The talent pool is maybe 60% down because everyone's playing soccer around the world far more. And it's not just Europe; it's South America too, for sure. And Africa too. So my guess is we're always going to have a dominant depth pool as long as soccer is the most expensive sport to play in America, besides maybe hockey. And that's not the case in the rest of the world.
It certainly is not. They find you, they're like, oh, we're going to take you to our academy and pay for you. Complete opposite here. And there's a million reasons why that is. We won't get into it. But soccer, you can tell, helped certain players, right? Steve Nash, right? One of his gifts was, again, just his movement and being able to see and find angles moving into space, right? And that's so much of what world football is all about, right? Is the ability to do that and taking those skills and applying them to a basketball floor. Pascal Siakam played a lot of football growing up too, right? I'm sure that helps him with his footwork as well.
Yeah, I won't go as what you said. Everyone says. I have no idea if soccer helps Steve Nash or not, because in basketball we do those things too. And Pete Maravich didn't play soccer, and he saw the whole game. I think Steph Curry's got great vision. LeBron, it didn't hurt. And also, soccer has one bad thing going for it as it relates to developing NBA players or basketball players. It's that it's mostly jogging with the occasional sprint.
Right.
Not to say our sport doesn't have some of that too, but we race far more. Everyone does. However, the right coach in soccer and then the right coach in basketball, one just helps the other because you have to be fit for sure to play soccer. And I think, as I was talking to a player yesterday, former first rounder, we were talking about the most important thing the next 6 weeks before he goes back to his team. Fitness is number one. I was talking to two different players yesterday, and we talked about fitness for both of them. Nothing else matters if you're not in amazing shape. Yeah. And in soccer, you can't do anything unless you're in great shape.
The size of the pitch, if you're a box-to-box midfielder in soccer, if you're not in shape, like you just won't make it. Like the amount of running you have to do back and forth, up and it's just. And in basketball, shorter field, right, shorter court, but you got to sprint, right? So you better be in shape, right? So that is, I mean, again, as David said, that is the number one thing. If your fitness is poor, well, you're not taking it seriously, and you don't want to make it. Patty Mills, David, got picked up by the Jazz. Speaking of Olympic guys who play well for the national team, the Jazz assigned him. Probably the vet minimum is my guess. But you don't love this. Why?
Hollinger wrote something interesting, John did, about he had one good half in one game in the Olympics, and that probably got him this deal. He's not been good for a couple of years. I value veterans. Mm-hmm. I think we have too much value on veterans.
I agree.
At the money they cost, when you have assistant coaches that should be able to provide similar kind of guidance. And there's just so many talented two-way players right now on teams, including probably on Utah. I haven't looked at their two-way roster yet. that should be getting that roster spot. And you're giving it to an old guy that isn't going to, whenever you make the playoffs, he won't be there. He won't be there. So you have enough veteran guys. Larry Markkinen is a veteran enough.
Sure is.
I love Patty Mills. This is nothing about Patty Mills in a negative way. He ain't the only one. James Johnson's Indiana's another one. Udonis did it for 20 years, but Udonis is different. Like, that dude was a galvanizer. For team military, he was the general. So he was the extension of Pat and Spo in many ways.
Yep.
There's none of these. I love Patty Mills. He ain't Udonis.
No, he's not that.
Not that kind of leader.
Right.
He is a great guy and all that. But I think we're missing the boat on lots of other talented players that aren't even getting a chance. And I think it's a mistake.
Well, so much of it, David's about how coaches feel, right? And most NBA coaches are the same way, which is, I trust veterans. But as David pointed out in his article, and as we watched in the Olympics with Team USA, with the best basketball players in the world, there's no such thing as rookie or young player mistakes. Fucking just LeBron pissed the ball away, dribble off his foot
twice.
Steph Curry throw picks. These are the best. Everyone makes mistakes. So this idea of, well, I'm going to bring in this guy because he's a vet and he's going to mess up too. You're actually better off with the younger guy, right? Because when it comes time for you to be in the playoffs or whatever, your ceiling may be higher if you develop him well. But that requires work, and I guess most people don't want to do the work it takes to do that.
And I suspect, and I don't know this to be true, but I suspect there is an angle of, you can't really criticize me for bringing an old guy because it's so easy to get the narrative right. Well, he's the veteran presence and he'll teach our guys how to be pros. And so you can't go wrong with it.
Right.
Whereas if you bring in a player that was on a two-way and it's 6 months later or 3 months and you realize he ain't going to make it, you somehow think that's a bad mark on you. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think, especially for a team like Utah, they ain't trying to win championships anyway.
Right.
Not this year anyway. I just there's another player that could one day really be good for them that they'll never see because they have Patty Mills there instead.
I agree. One of the other talking points that came out of the Olympics was how great LeBron and AD looked. And naturally, because it's the Lakers and they drive so much of the conversation around the NBA, people were writing and discussing and talking about, watching LeBron and AD in this Olympics shows what a colossal failure the Lakers organization has been around them.
Right.
But David says, hold on, are we so sure that's the case?
Well, yeah, my concern is the microscope is on the roster construction and not the coaching and the coaching staff. Because I have not looked it up recently. The season's been over for a bit now. But my memory is D'Lo is one of the best shooters in the league. So when you think of what does LeBron and AD need around him, shooting. I mean, D'Lo works, and he's got veteran experience. He's also a very, very good, top 10% of the league offensive player. Hachimura was a good in a couple of playoff games a couple of years ago, former first-round pick, lottery pick. Austin Reeves was going into last year, was coming off a really good season. Obviously, there's other guys, and they Cam Reddish. And so, but they hired Darvin Ham. And now they fired Frank Vogel. And now they've hired J.J. Redick, who's never coached before. I just don't think they respect my profession. And I don't do what these guys do. But I don't think they respect what a really good coach can do. I don't think they understand how it works. I really don't. And that's on management, and it's on ownership. Because I don't agree that the Lakers squad wasn't good enough to get to a championship. The year before, they made the Western Conference Finals. I don't think it's the lack of talent around LeBron and AD. I think it's a culture issue. I also think LeBron and AD don't do for teams what they did for Team USA. I mean, AD smiled more in those last 4 games than I see him smile the entire season. Like, they need to bring that. They need to learn themselves, humble themselves. We were more available to our guys. We played with more passion and purpose and joy. The 82-game season is not working, or maybe you don't like management or coaches. It's obvious. But you guys have the talent with the guys around you to really elevate. And I think the West is more open than people realize. OKC still has some issues.
For sure.
And they're by far the best team.
And they're young.
Dallas has some issues, and they're probably second best team. They're very young, OKC. So the Lakers should be able to do something about it. JJ's never coached before. I'm rooting for him, but, it was an odd hire to me compared to what I think they could have done.
You know what's so interesting? You mentioned Darvin Ham, and I don't know if you saw this, and I'm sort of like giving you the condensed version, but basically Pat Bev, former Laker, was on one of his podcasts, and he said that he saw Coach Ham, I'm assuming sometime this off season, and they said, "Hey, Pat, can I talk to you?" He's like, I want to apologize." He's like, "For what?" And he was like, when I was coaching the Lakers, you had said, "Hey, I know we don't have time to practice. Can we rep this stuff more? Because I thought we weren't repping stuff enough. You don't need to go through a full practice, but can we run through these things more?" And he's like, "We didn't." And I think you're right. I think we needed to. How much of it do you think is just the way the nature of the NBA season and 82 games, and particularly when your two best players are older veterans like LeBron and AD who want nothing to do with practicing because they have to get their bodies right. When you have younger guys, the importance of not necessarily up and down practice, but just getting reps of walkthrough, like, here's what we want you to do in this scenario, in this scenario, in this scenario. LeBron and AD know because they've got encyclopedic, reference points. These other kids don't.
Yeah, so I think you're getting to the symptom of the deeper problem, actually, which is the coach and then superstars aren't on the same page. That's my guess. I don't know this. It's my guess. Maybe Darvin wanted to do it, and it was LeBron that just wasn't having it. And so what's the point of doing it if LeBron's not going to be doing it or AD? That falls on management. And so to me, I don't mind people criticizing Lakers brass. Just do it for the right reason, which is not roster construction. That team was loaded. And so was the year before, loaded. And remember, I was saying that when they weren't winning games. Mm-hmm. It's not the roster construction problem. It's a coaching and management problem. And that problem still exists. And LeBron has to own it. AD has to own it. Like, we're good enough as players, as teammates, as leaders. We have to do more. And then JJ has a chance to be successful if LeBron and AD do their part.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm rooting for JJ. Like, I want him to do well. To me, I don't see the path for that unless LeBron is going to do whatever JJ wants. And that's not what I see happening in this scenario. Speaking of another situation where, should we be questioning an organization, given Steph's latest exploits and heroics in Paris for Team USA, should there be more pressure or more scrutiny on the Warriors front office and the Warriors head coach? Now, David, I asked this question knowing that Warriors fans will delight in hearing this because they scream from the hilltops. We have this generational player who we're never going to get again. He's still in his peak. Why aren't we playing? Why aren't we building around him? I can't say I disagree, but what say you?
Yeah, there we know they've got a great coach. And I don't care what anyone says. No one's perfect. Everyone's capable of having a bad coaching game or even a series, whatever, get out coached. I don't think we can criticize. I'm not going to criticize Kerr as a coach. I can criticize management for a number of decisions that they've made or not made. They finally did, move on from Clay. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes with him in Dallas. They're paying Trent a lot of money, and if you want to just make sure you pay a guy that delivers so much money to you, fine. I don't know that's the best play to win a bunch of games. I do think that we saw Steph's capable of being pretty average or below average. I think it was 19% from three everything to the last two games. Mm-hmm. That's pretty bad. So, and that's with rests in between, although he wasn't getting the number of shots he normally gets for the Warriors, and that probably matters. But he's certainly capable of doing a lot. And yeah, they definitely they broke the mold to win those rings, and but I haven't seen a real good plan going forward. We'll see what happens now, but they've done a lot of swings and misses.
Yeah,
going to last few years
for sure. And I think a lot of the fan base probably is like, look, we get that there's potential with Kuminga and Moody and these guys, but they're like, can you move one of those guys in and get a sure thing, right? Get a guy like Markin in here, which I think they were trying to do, but Markin ended up staying in Utah, right? And sort of try to top out and get another chance at winning a championship, right? But this is the balance that front offices have to make and the choices, right? And I think the Warriors still, even though they said, we're off of that, I think they're still kind of caught in that 2 timeline scenario, right? It's sort of hurting them in that way because Kuminga and those guys are not, although Kuminga's gotten a lot better, is not ready to be the number 2 guy on a title-winning team yet.
No, he could maybe this year be a net positive. That's the hope. But yeah, Wiggins really flamed out last year badly, and which is too bad. Hopefully he's still 3 years left on his deal, I think. So hopefully he'll do better. But yeah, they did great. It's just hard to keep doing it. The Spurs did a great job for a long period of time. Most teams, and the Celtics are on a great run now. They only have 1 ring and 2 finals appearances, but impressive run with all their Eastern Conference Finals appearances. So this is, it's unlikely Golden State's going to do anything going forward with this group.
Yeah,
very unlikely.
I don't see it either. All right, folks, enjoy the weekend, and we will see you next week.